the truth. The Word of God says the truth will set you free. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. The United States will not shake off her banker-controlled dictatorship as long as the people are ignorant of the hidden controllers. Banking concerns, which control most of the governments of the nations and most sources of information, television, newspapers, magazines, are afraid of only one thing: an awakened, patriotic citizenry armed with the truth. You see, they are threatened. They are insecure. Remember, the demons believe in Jesus Christ. They believe in the truth. See, that's Jesus Christ, and they tremble. And so the demons inside these greedy world bankers are trembling that Americans would come to find the truth about what they're all about. See, they are as scared as little tiny mice running up and down the curtains in the cathedrals. Now, they're in the cathedrals. They're in the churches. They're controlling pulpits. That's how mainstream Protestantism has declined, because they invaded the churches, and the mainstream Protestant churches stopped hearing the truth. So they want to squelch the truth by taking over the church. Now, this was not in my notes, but I was inspired by God, because these are demonic, dastardly creatures from the pit of hell. And we need to stomp them out. By God, we can do it. If anybody can do it, it's the American people. Why? Because I'm ethnocentric? I might be, but that's not why. But because America was founded on the Bible, unlike any other nation. Now, some nations were founded on tyranny and dictatorships and other kinds of principles, and maybe some of them came to the truth and got freedom of religion, but we started out that way. We started out with people who had gumption, with people who had spine, with people who had the audacity to promote fighting for your freedom and having weapons, having guns, because we were rugged Americans, the rugged individualism. We fought for our farms, we fought for everything we had, and now the greedy world bankers want to take it all from us. You know, it appears that we lost the war of independence, because they're here now. They're controlling us from Washington, D.C., which is controlled by the Europeans. We can take it back because we have the right spirit. And I'm not going to spoon feed you the solutions because you won't own the solution. But if you come up with a solution on how to resolve this, then you're going to own it and you're going to do something about it. We have to come to an agreement on how to resolve this. That we, the people, we have the power constitutionally. So it's not up to politicians to spoon feed us solutions. They lie anyway. They're controlled by the world bankers. We have to come up with solutions. Anybody who's up for being voted on, remember, the opponents are controlled by the same world bankers. So you can't trust them. And the other parties that are not controlled, they're not going to get funding from our federal government to put candidates up for office because they're not controlled. And if you vote for them, they're not going to win anyway, most likely, because all the media is in favor of the two main parties. So we're spinning our wheels. So we have to think hard and come up with a solution. But we can do it. It'll be hard, but we can do it among all peoples of the earth. I have hope in Americans. I trust Americans. And you know what? The average American is a born-again Christian believer. I don't care what the media says. A nation is what the people are, and the people are believers. I know. I talk to thousands and thousands and thousands of military folk and non-military, and most of them all believe in Jesus Christ. Now, people have problems. People are involved in drugs and whatever. Well, when you're poverty-stricken and politicians are pushing drugs in certain communities to destroy Christian America, maybe you can start to read between the lines, but these are still people who believe in Jesus Christ. This is a Christian nation. It's okay if countries are Muslim nations. It's okay if Israel is a Jewish nation. But it's not okay for America to be a Christian nation? No. This is a Christian nation. We have to take America back. We've got to proclaim the truth. These satanic world bankers are afraid of Americans being woken up, being patriotic, and being armed with the truth. We can do it. Fraser and Beeston recommend that in order to regain control over our financial system, we learn about the economic treaties which fall under the Global Agreement on Trade and Tariffs, GATT, such as the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, APEC, and the European Union, the EU. These have been designed to lower the standard of living in most developed nations via a transfer of wealth. With these treaties, governments remove trade and tariffs, protections, tariffs and trade protections, thus forcing small businesses to compete with transnationals. They call it economic rationalism. Economic rationalism is based on a free market, laissez-faire, free enterprise society. It will not work otherwise. Fraser and Beeston, page 11. Edward Griffin, in a speech entitled How the Federal Reserve Act Was Made into Law, reveals how the Federal Reserve was created, as well as the background of the International Monetary Fund, World Bank. Even more informative is Griffin's book, The Creature from Jekyll Island, a second look at the Federal Reserve. In the book, he states that since the system makes it profitable for banks to make large, unsound loans, then the banks will make that kind of loan, for they can collect interest. Hence, they do not care if the loan is ever paid off, if the principal is paid off. In fact, they prefer the principal not be paid off so they can keep on collecting the interest. They know they cannot lose. And the Federal Reserve guarantees that massive loans that go into default will not be allowed to seriously affect the issuing bank. The banks cannot lose. For credit card loans, bank mortgages, and most car loans, the banks do not actually loan anything, not one penny of actual money. Instead, the banks use the papers people sign, their promise to pay the bank, to create that loan in order to fund the loans. Griffin also points out that the fears of our founding fathers were appropriate and realistic. The Federal Reserve is the fourth central bank that the United States has had. The previous three crashed with inevitable inflation and economic disaster. The fourth central bank. We've been down this road before. Do we not learn from history? Is there any wonder why satanic, godless public education does not teach history? Amen. They don't want Americans to know that from which they came. And Karl Marx once said that if you can separate a people from their history, you can convince them of anything. Karl Marx. Griffin offers a realistic plan for saving our country and ourselves. The full